Hey everyone, Erick Stakelbeck here. This week on the Watchman Newscast, President Trump announces that he plans to pull all U.S. troops out of Syria and hand the reins over to Turkey. This is a very bad idea. Find out why this week, only right here on the Watchman Newscast. Folks, I've been receiving text messages and emails throughout the past several days from my good friends in Iraqi Kurdistan expressing concern, expressing alarm about President Trump's announcement that, yes, he plans to pull all U.S. troops out of Syria. Now, the Kurds right now feel isolated and they feel abandoned because the U.S. and those U.S. troops in Syria have kind of served as a buffer holding back the expansionist ambitions of, number one, the Iranian regime, which we've talked about here on the newscast, but number two, Recep Erdogan, the radical Islamist president of Turkey. Now, Erdogan, over the past few years, has made repeated noise about invading northeastern Syria. Now, northeastern Syria is a place where there's a large Kurdish population. Not only that, a significant Christian minority. And guess what? Erdogan is an avowed enemy of the Kurdish people, and he also is not very fond of Christians, as we saw with the whole Pastor Brunson episode last year. The Kurds feel like they've been hung out to dry. Look, they played a leading role, probably the leading role, on the ground in crushing that ISIS caliphate with the help of U.S. air support, of course. But ISIS and their ideology, they're still very much alive, folks, and there's a threat that if the U.S. is gone from the region, ISIS could reconstitute. We saw this in 2011 and early 2012. President Obama pulled all U.S. troops out of Iraq far too soon. And what do we have? We have the formation of ISIS. President Trump, by and large, he's done a great job. Number one, when it comes to Iran, look, has ramped up the sanctions against that Iranian regime, pulled out of that disastrous Iran nuclear deal, designated Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps as a terrorist organization, moving the embassy to Jerusalem where it belongs, having the boldness and the courage to finally do that, supporting Israel in every way that he can, not only behind the scenes and with cooperation on the military security end, but just visiting Israel, praying at the Western Wall, and verbally and openly embracing the Jewish state. And third, again, President Trump kept his word. He unleashed the U.S. military to destroy the ISIS caliphate. That's exactly what happened. But now I have to say, the move to withdraw all U.S. troops, again, I feel like we are repeating a mistake that we made in 2011. Look, Iran now, there was the U.S. buffer there in Syria. If that's gone, Iran marches across the region, right to the Mediterranean at Israel's doorstep. Number two, Erdogan, again, a very bad actor in the Middle East. You know, he's a so-called NATO ally, folks, but I refer to him as NINO, NATO in name only, because Recep Erdogan, especially since that failed coup attempt against him in 2016, which was a very shadowy event, he's really tightened his tyrannical grip in Turkey. And when it comes to anti-Israel and outright anti-Semitic rhetoric, no one, with the exception of the Iranian regime, no one is worse than Erdogan. He has turned away from the West. He has turned east, and it's no surprise that you see these repeated pictures because they're having frequent meetings of Erdogan, Rouhani of Iran, and Putin of Russia basically raising each other's hands in the air in victory. And I was just in Iraqi Kurdistan. We've talked about it here on the Watchman Newscast over the past few weeks. And what I saw among the Kurdish Peshmerga and the Kurdish people in Iraq, in northern Iraq, was a people who are pro-America, pro-Israel, freedom-minded, moderate. This is an ideal ally smack dab in the middle of the Muslim Middle East. I want to go to a clip from an interview I did with Jonathan Schanzer. He's the Vice President of Research for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, or FDD for short, in Washington, D.C. I interviewed Jonathan a few months ago for our Watchman television show, which you can catch every week on TBN and the Fox Business Network. I'll give you all the details before we wrap up today. But I interviewed him about Turkey, and he had some very, very revealing insights and analysis when it comes to where Turkey is going under Erdogan and why you should be concerned. Take a look.
I think that Turkey is now the first NATO member that also qualifies as a state sponsor of terrorism. Just to put things in perspective, first of all, you have a presence of Hamas in that country that just simply shouldn't be there. That is the largest external headquarters for Hamas. If you remember the 2014 war between Israel and Hamas, that rocket war, it was launched by the killing of those 3 teens in the West Bank. That was planned and financed out of Turkey. Number 2, look at what's happened in Syria. The ISIS and Al-QAEDA problem that has overtaken that country, it is largely due to the lax border policies of Turkey. There is a 550-mile border between Turkey and Syria, and the Turks left it wide open. And then on top of that, you've got the Iran problem that they have going on over there, where they helped Iran evade sanctions. Right at the height of that nuclear standoff that we had between 2012 and 2015, they allowed Iran to move roughly $20 billion worth of cash and gold. That's with a B, billion.
When he calls Turkey a state sponsor of terrorism, you better listen. That's a serious charge, and Jonathan backed it up with solid facts. Turkey in the past has been a loyal NATO ally. They have been an ally to the United States. They have been an ally to Israel as well, but that all changed gradually, starting in 2002, when Erdogan became president of Turkey, and again in 2016 with that failed coup attempt. He used that as an opportunity to tighten his tyrannical grip on power. Think again of Pastor Brunson. Thankfully, another great move by President Trump to get Pastor Brunson released, but we need to be consistent. The president turned up the heat on Erdogan then, pressured the Turkish regime to get Pastor Brunson released, but now we're pulling U.S. troops out of Syria and exposing the Kurds to Erdogan. Folks, we need to be consistent with our policy on Turkey. We have to acknowledge once and for all that under Erdogan, Turkey has become a problematic actor in the Middle East region. They're no longer an ally of the United States, a reliable ally that can be trusted, and they are openly hostile to Israel. And that's why we want you to join our team at Christians United for Israel. We are America's largest pro-Israel organization, over 7 million members, growing every day. So you see the website there on your screen, you see the phone number. Call us, click, and join our movement today. And while you're at it, if you like the Watchman Newscast, number 1, subscribe, like our YouTube channel here, give us a big thumbs up, but also check out the Watchman TV show. It's every Friday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on TBN. Then you can catch us every Sunday night at 12:30 a.m. Eastern on the Fox Business Network. I guess that's early Monday morning on the East Coast where I live, but 12:30 a.m. Eastern, but 11:30 p.m. Central, 9:30 p.m. Pacific, prime time on the Fox Business Network every Sunday night. And again, continue to check us out on TBN as well. Whew. A lot going on right now, folks. This is a rapidly developing story. We pray and we hope that President Trump reverses course on this and reconsiders his announcement. This is not the right time to withdraw all U.S. presence from the Middle East because, folks, the world's worst actors will fill that vacuum, and our loyal ally, the Kurds, and our allies in the Sunni Arab world, Israel, will all be exposed to a greater extent to these very, very evil forces that are marching across the Middle East right now. So continue to join us every week right here on the Watchman Newscast. God bless you, and until next week, remember, never hold your peace.